morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacia Tyler, and I'm going to take care of the training on the admin side for the portal today. If you have any questions pertaining to the admin creation of users, drivers, equipment, and terminals, as well as account settings, you let us know and you can type that into the question area for us. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. Once your account is created and you've gotten your login credentials, the first thing you should do is go in and check on your account settings. Make sure all of your information is here, your carrier information, your DOT number is entered in. Double check your street and your address, the start time of day you want to default to, phone number, time zone. And then down here, there's a few things that you can help set up for yourself. So we do have a frequency of how often the tablet or phone sends data back to the portal. That is default 5 minutes by default, but you can set it to 1 or 3 minutes. Also, if you are using ELD, you can set a threshold speed that would be for the automatic transition into driving. It defaults to 100 miles an hour, but if you wanted to default to something else, or if you want it to be something else across all your drivers, you can set that here. Also, if your drivers ever use personal use or yard moves, that needs to be enabled here so that you can then enable it on the driver's page, and I will get to that shortly. As well as if they ever need to manage equipment. So if they need to add or edit equipment, you would have this box checked, and if they ever need to be able to delete equipment, you would have this box checked. You also need to check those on the driver's page as well. If you do possibly have multiple DOT numbers within the same account, you would need to check this box, allow driver editing of carrier information. This will allow the driver to change the DOT number on the tablet. So every day that he's driving, he can go in there, he can check the DOT number, make sure that it is the correct number he's driving for that day, and then move on, and the next day or maybe that afternoon, if he needs to change it, he can change it then again. But that would all need to be taken care of on the tablet. And then if you want them to be able to specify which mode they are, so whether it's AOBRD or ELD, the last box would be checked. The next section I'm going to get into is terminals. So the first thing that you would create within your account would be terminals. So if you have a larger company that has terminals or depots across the country, you would need to create all those terminals first. To create a terminal, click on the plus sign, give it a name, a code, a street address, choose a time zone and a start time of day. You also need to decide if this is your home terminal or the main office terminal. You can only have one of those. So you would select this if that was your main terminal and then click Save. And as you see, we have added another terminal. From there, you can add users, drivers, and equipment in any order. I'm just going to go in the order that we have them here. So we're going to start with users. To add a user, you enter in a first, a last name, an email address, confirm that email address, then enter in a password for them. From there, you need to select a role. So we have a few extra roles because you can create custom roles here, but account admin and fleet manager will typically be the same role. The only difference between the two of these is account admin can add, delete, and create and edit accounts. Everything else is the same between the fleet manager and account admin. They can do anything and everything else within the entire system, including adding and deleting users, drivers, equipment, DVIR forms, and terminals. User admin can add and delete and edit users and drivers. Asset admin can add and delete equipment. And the last one that you will have will be user view only. This will allow a user to view anything within the system, but won't be able to add, delete, or change it. And that includes not being able to edit logs, add comments on DVIR forms, basically be able to view everything in the system, but not make any changes or edits to the system. So we'll choose Fleet Manager for this one, and then click Save. The next thing we're going to go in and create is a driver. Drivers can be created in two different ways. You can create them individually, or you can also upload a CSV. So let's go ahead and look at the instructions on how to upload a CSV. If you only have a couple of drivers, 3, 4, 5, it might be faster just to add them individually. Once you're getting over that 10 or 15 range, then it might be beneficial to use the CSV. So here are all the different columns that you need to create within your CSV. And then you need to enter in all of that information below. If you have any drivers in the system already, then this would be an update and replace. If you don't have a single driver in your account yet, then it would be a create. You would choose that file and then you would click upload. But we're going to go ahead and create one individually. Driver ID is optional. You would enter in a first and last name, a CDL number, choose the state that they might be from, choose the terminal, so we just added home, so we'll choose that terminal. Start time of day, you would like to have the entire shift of your driver on one grid chart. So typically anybody that's first shift, the midnight start time of day works perfect for them because they can have that 14 hours over a normal 24-hour period from midnight to midnight. But if somebody works second or third shift, maybe you want to shift that from noon to noon, 3 p.m. to 3 p.m., whatever makes sense to make sure that their shift is all on one grid chart. You need to enter in an email address, and a password. And then if personal use and yard moves applies to your driver, you would check these boxes. If it doesn't, or they never use these two options, you would never check these boxes. So depending on your business case, and personal use or yard moves applies or not. Also manage equipment. If you want this driver to be able to add and edit equipment, you can select this box. Because I did not have the delete equipment box checked in the account settings, it's not an option here on the driver's page. If I scroll down, the next thing you need to do is choose a U.S. cycle. So we do have the 2 federal cycles, as well as all the intra-state cycles, as you can see here. So you choose the correct cycle for you. I'm just going to leave it on the 70 hours, 8 days. And then you also need to choose a Canadian cycle. So we'll say it's the 120 hours and 14 days. Then you need to choose whether it's property or passenger. And the last thing, if it is an exempt driver, you can check the exempt here and put an annotation in. And then down here, this is also optional. This is PDF report recipients. So there's 2 different things that can be sent from the tablet or phone back to the office, and that is certified DVIRs and certified logs. If you want to pre-populate that to field for the driver, so they don't always have to type in the same email addresses if they're going to be sending that stuff off, you can have that pre-populated for them. And this can go to 1 or multiple addresses. They just need to be comma separated. And then you would click Save. The next section we're going to go into is equipment. So this is where you create your vehicles and trailers. And again, you can upload a CSV. This is very similar to the driver one. Terminals, you can also upload a CSV. So if you have a lot of terminals, I forgot to go through that. I do apologize. You can upload terminals via CSV as well. Here is all of the information that needs to be included. All of this bold headers need to be included in order to create a CSV for equipment. But if we're going to add one individually, we'll click on the plus sign, give it a name. Names can only be 10 characters long with no spaces. You would choose whether it's a vehicle or a trailer, whether it's AOBRD or ELD mode. You would then need to enter a VIN. It needs to be in the format of a VIN. This cannot be just dummy numbers in here. It needs to be in the correct format. A license plate, the country, the state. Then it's optional if you would like to select a DVIR form. We do suggest using this. This cuts down on mistakes by the driver, possibly choosing the wrong form, getting partway through it, and then having to start over again. And it also cuts down on one step for the driver so that he doesn't have to choose a form that's automatically selected for him. So let's go ahead and we'll choose oil truck, for example. Choose the terminal that you want to have associated, so we'll choose home because that's the one that we created. We also have a concept of visibility sets. If you want to have your vehicles in subsets so that only certain people can see subsets of those vehicles, then you can create what we call visibility sets. Your visibility set 1, which is a default visibility set, will automatically be checked for you. You can put equipment into one or multiple visibility sets. And then the last thing is to choose a GPS receiver. So whether you want the GPS to come from the mobile device, the VBus device, or either device. Everything here off to the right-hand side will populate for you when you do your first manual connection. The only thing that you might have to work with are these 2 checkboxes. These are typically used for light-duty vehicles. With the OBD2 standard, it is not required to report odometer or engine hours, but those 2 parameters are required for ELD. So in order to get those parameters, in order to make your initial connection, because without a full set of data, you cannot make that initial connection, you would need to check these 2 boxes. Then we would increase the odometer miles on the application based off of GPS, and then we would also increment the manual engine hours starting at 0. And that is both fine and acceptable per the regulations. And then we would click Save. After that, you should be all ready and all set up to do everything you would need to do within the account. There's a couple other things that you can go in and do and work with. One is driver exceptions. You can make this very configurable for the drivers. So if there's ones that never apply to you, maybe you're not in agricultural, so you want to uncheck that so none of the drivers accidentally choose that. Or any of the different exceptions we have here, you can either check or uncheck any of them so that they do or they do not appear for the driver. Shannon, do we have any questions?
They're not really questions, but I have 2 comments.
Okay.
When the driver switches to U.S. cycle rules, the app starts showing violation for the previous cycle logs, and he was driving in Canada, and there was no violation according to the Canadian rules.
Okay. This is something that should be sent to support, and they can help you out. This is not something that's pertaining to what we are discussing today.
And the second one is probably a support question as well.
Okay. Well, that's all I had. Do you guys have any other questions on how to create users, drivers, equipment, terminals, work with driver exceptions? Anything around those parameters?
Can you review the push data feature?
I'm sorry?
The push data feature?
This is only if you're pulling it into, you want to pull in the driver history records into your back end and use them in another portal. So that's the only reason the push data feature is here, is to be able to pull the information from us, or for us to push that data to you every time we get that. So that's what the push data configuration is for. This is not something that a typical end user would be setting up. So this is end user training, everybody.
I'm not seeing any more questions.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for your time today. I hope this is informative and this would be helpful for you guys to use as a training video. Have a great rest of your day.